Hello again. Here we are. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us. Really do appreciate you sort of like bearing with us as we've been in the sin bin for the last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to access either the sort of like backup channels that we've got in place in the event that we get a strike. And so there was a particular meme that was put up about 9 days ago, and the meme was literally, I think it was who was it? It was Starmer that had his hands sort of like coops in a bit of red paint, and the sort of like the wording to that was like blood on the hands. And apparently YouTube did not like that, thought that that was a bit too graphic and a little bit sort of like over the top, which I thought was quite hilarious, considering that on YouTube there were pictures and videos of this terrorist over here in the UK who was literally shot dead. I just thought, okay, what, you can't handle a picture? But this is what we're up against, guys. Would encourage you, if you don't mind, we didn't just sort of like take a week off. We were working behind the scenes. There's a few platforms that we're trying to sort of like build up in the interim of that. One of those is on sort of like Twitter X, and the other is on Truth Social, as well as Rumble as well. And so over the course of the week, we've been looking at some other videos. I've been able to actually make some, which is like really great for me. One of those videos that you might want to go and check over at Rumble and see is Bill Gates unveils global digital ID, which will erase non-compliant citizens. We're seeing this real push over here in the UK. Hope you've been able to see the video that we were able to put together with what's happening over here as well. But we're seeing this global digital ID being pushed across all of the platforms. And here we've got Bill Gates unveils the global digital ID, which will erase non-compliant citizens. Only have to go over what we covered when it came to Vietnam, and 86 million of their accounts were literally, frozen and stopped and binned. And that was actually rumored to be over more like 100 and something million, but that was what they were starting off as their sort of like beginning target group. The same also happened in Thailand as well, where if you're not going to be having this, then you're going to find everything literally sort of like being set against you. So when you have over here in the United Kingdom and you have Keir Starmer saying that, oh well, initially only these sort of like digital IDs are going to be for those that want to get a new job or rent a new property. And all of us Brits over here are just like thinking, no, this is not happening. We know that you're going to tie every single service to this digital ID. We know that that's what you're going to do. Then lo and behold, Starmer wants to go over to India, where he's been able to see how 1.4 billion people, live underneath the thumb of having this digital ID around their very lives. And then all of a sudden, very much like predictive programming, which is what the beast system loves to do, the beast system's favorite one at the moment is the slow reveal, where they sort of like, don't say much about it, they conceal it and they hide it, and then very gradually they filter that bit of information in and out to you, sort of like letting you know what's going on. So all of a sudden, lo and behold, yes, this is what's going to be needed in order that you have, other services or even your money, which is what we were worried that this would all be around them censoring us, controlling what it was that we could buy, where it was that we could go. And then look at what they did the other day when it came to, having a consultation, which is hilarious considering they haven't consulted any one of us when it comes to this digital ID, and now wanting to implement that with 13-year-olds and children, which is absolutely monstrous when you think about that tyranny, getting them all groomed and all primed for this type of sort of like surrender of their rights and everything else. So it's been a bit of a challenge for us over here in the UK to do some things. By the grace of God, we've been able to come back, I suppose, after the break. But it's important that we sort of like continue our work on other platforms. So I'm encouraging you guys. I know sometimes we can just get a little bit used to sort of like just going to our usual place for our usual bits of information. But sometimes if you really do want to know what's going to be happening, it's really important that you come to other sources as well, that we have, no doubt our mods will put in the link throughout the course of this live, that you go to those also to see what is truly going on. Part of my heart that I've been having whilst I've been away for this week, spent a lot of time in prayer, obviously making some videos, but also it's just like, it's because of our silence that I feel that the beast system has become so much more emboldened. I know that there's appointed times also for him and them to have their reign and get everything set up, the things that they need, i.e. the Agenda 2030 goals and everything else pertaining to that wickedness. But it's also a case of how it is that we operate before them. You know, so many just stay silent about so many of these tyrannies, these rights, these rules, these things that are in place above them. And people aren't speaking out and saying, no, I don't want to have the digital ID. I don't want to be having this. I don't agree to that. And our enemy becomes so much more sort of like, you know, arrogant and more proud and more pomp, and thinks, oh, well, no one's really opposing us. We'll just apply even more tyrannies, even more legislation that's going to remove people's rights and freedoms. And it's only when these things are actually gone and they're taken away that people actually start to think, oh, hang on a sec, I don't quite like that. I don't like this net zero sort of like tyranny when I go shopping, and I'm seeing how that's being manifested when it comes to what I can't buy, when it comes to meats and foods and then being overpriced. You start to see the pinch then. But this is also part of the slow reveal. This is why they're spreading things out over a period of time, so that most people aren't that, you know, aware of this. So in the video that we did just a few days ago, I think it was yesterday, talking around, you know, the consultation around digital IDs for children as well. That's an enormous, you know, government overreach, because it's down to the parents to be able to make those decisions for their children. It's not for the government to think that it can monitor and track and trace, and parents don't have any access to whatever information is being collated about their children. Is that not worrying for anybody in terms of what it is that they're documenting? Or are you as adults, or we as adults, happy to comply with this sort of like, you know, collecting of our data, our information without our consent? Personally, I'm not, because I don't believe that they're trustworthy with this information and this data that they end up using against each and every one of us. So if that's not some sort of like an early doors sort of like warning for those that think that, yeah, I'd love to have this type of technology merging with my biology. And just imagine these guys spying as they do, you know, with the devices being external, turning on our microphones, turning on our cameras. Imagine how more perverted that they would become, finding out what it is that we're feeling on the inside, what we're thinking, and all of our perceptions and everything else that all of a sudden become, you know, sort of like fair game to these monsters. So it's really important that we speak out against some of these things that are happening. But what's interesting over here in the UK is that there were nearly 3 million signatures that opposed this digital ID. But did that stop the government? No, not at all. When Tony Blair tried this back in 1997, all right, there was such an outcry. There was like 30 plus, you know, MPs were saying, well, we don't want this. Well, there's more signatures than there have been in any sort of like, you know, petitions. And this is what's really sad, is that if you go into like the UK government petitions and you just see all of the particular petitions that the Brits have been literally crying out for example, some of those have been around the vote of no confidence in our Prime Minister. In other instances, that's been like, no, we want a general election. In others, we don't want the online safety bill. We don't want the online and police in bill that's to come. We don't want digital IDs. We don't want these particular things, and desperately crying out for that, and then rewording them accordingly. And this is what the government don't understand, is that, you know, they're there to serve the people and the will and the interests of the people, but they don't. They serve their own selfish agenda, or the WEF's Davos agenda. Okay, or they serve their own secret society. In the UK's case, that would be the Fabian Society, and they want to follow their particular communist ideals and values as well. So it's really important that we're speaking out against this. And what's so magnificent is that what the Lord is allowing us as a people to see, what he's allowing us at this moment to report. The prophet Daniel and Apostle John were told to seal up their books and go on their way in the things that we are now able to report when it comes to, you know, you will be excluded if you don't have the digital ID, seeing how these things are starting to take shape relating to what will be eventually the mark of the beast. And so it's so important now, before that sort of like empire starts to get built up and built up and built up, to where you have your digital ID, then your digital passports, then your vaccine status, and then it will all be sort of like managed and controlled with a social credit score system. only have to look at China in terms of what's happening. And we are like 2 steps behind China at the moment with the policies and the protocols and procedures that are coming out. That's why today's live is literally covering also what's happening over in Canada with, Carnage Mark Carney. Okay, that's his nickname. Because it's important that people understand that these rules are happening right around you, and not everybody is doing the same thing, because that would be far too obvious. So everyone's getting different bits of this sort of like Agenda 2030 that they're having to push on to their people, regardless of what it is that they say. No matter how they sort of like oppose any of that, the 1% literally hell-bent on controlling and manipulating the rest. So when we see sort of like Bill Gates being the sort of like beast systems rep, yeah, traveling around all over the world trying to, deceive and con and coerce all of these governmental leaders with money and, sort of like bribes and everything else. And then they're adopting these policies and putting them into place in their respective governments. And then that's just, creating mayhem and, havoc to the populace and the countries that they represent. So one of the videos that was there, Bill Gates unveils global digital ID. And this was part of it. This is what you get as a prime example. When you get Keir Starmer at Davos 6 months before he gets elected, turns around and says, here, I'm with Rachel Hargreaves or whatever, and here we are, do you know what I mean? We're as a signal of intent, literally brown nosing, and say, look, if you put me into the government, if you put me into office in the UK, okay, I'll scratch your back a lot more, and all of these sort of like procedures. And then bam, all of a sudden, there goes the farming with all of the tax. Bam, there goes your fishing rights and everything else. And poof, here you go with the net zero with Ed Miliband. And poof, here you go. You can have the Satan sort of like, cloud chemtrails spraying overhead as well and depopulate everybody in that particular way. This is what we're seeing, guys, when these guys are given that sort of like, room or positions of authority. This is what they have to do, because their overlords are like, yes, well, you've got to sort of like, justify you being put into that position because there's 10 people behind you that want your job. And there was a few people in terms of like government that had his job and didn't want to go where this man's leading us all to. So it's really important that we see just how these things are taking shape. Again, another WEF young global graduate, a young global leader, has those connections as well. And this is when they're not really serving your interests or ours, but they're overlords and Davos's interests. And this is why when Klaus Schwab says that, you want to be infiltrating the governments, that ought to be setting off security alerts for every single government, every single sort of like person. And this is it. You don't get a choice in any of it whatsoever. And the fact that we don't speak up enough, perhaps as a church, perhaps we don't speak out against evil enough, perhaps we'll think, oh, well, never mind, I'm just worried about me getting out of there next week. And we do not think about the long-term consequences of that. Because for me personally, and this is just me personally, I think we're here for a few more years. I'm sorry to say it. And goodbye, everybody who doesn't want to hear that. But I'm sorry, I do not see this. The beast system is not ready for its 7 years just yet. It ain't ready. It hasn't got the digital ID, which is why the whole beast system is literally this. This is the foundation on everything else that needs to be put on place. Is this digital ID? They have got to get this. This is why they're pushing and pushing and pushing. And they've set the standard when it comes to Agenda 2030. They're the ones, not us, not me. They're the ones that are working towards that. And now we're seeing this real ramping up of everything. So for me personally, I'm not seeing that we're going for a while. It's when you get the digital IDs, the passports, the social credit score, and we're literally, the rest of the world is nearly enough like China is at the moment. That's when I think we're getting out of here. And so from now until that particular place, that's where I'm looking. That's just me personally. The Lord hasn't spoken to me about it, saying, right, just put your head down for the next sort of like 5 years. He's not said that to me. But having done this for 8 years and seeing what the beast system is doing and how that's working, and then with everything else that seems to be coming and going when it comes also to, high watch dates, etc., that's it. And for me, again, I'm being really honest and brutal with you guys today. It's like, no, that's it now until high watch times begin for me again, back when it comes to Passover. All right, that's another 6 months that we've got. Okay, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope, Dan, you're epically wrong. We're going home this afternoon and it's all good. It's all, I'd be really delighted with that. but I am not personally seeing that from mine enemy. I'm not seeing it. Other people want to look at calculations and they want to look at timelines and they want to look at feed states. That's great. Awesome. I love watching their videos. I love watching their findings. Gives me a little bit of oomph in order to want to carry on and press on. But personally, I don't think that we're quite there yet. So we are going to have to start making our own decisions on what it's going to be like when it comes down to, are we going to comply with the digital IDs? What adjustments are we also going to be making to our lives, to our finances, to our freedoms of movement? If we've been told over here in the UK that this bad boy digital ID is going to be implemented before the end of their sort of like, you know, government as such, then what we're looking at, maybe 2-3 years. So if you want to move a house, best move a house now. You want to get a new job, best get a new job right now. That's just one of the videos that we put out last week. Bill Gates unveils global digital ID, which will erase non-compliant citizens. You think, well, that's a bit of a stretch, bruv. Tell that to 86 million Vietnamese. Tell that to the millions elsewhere. Tell that to the Canadian truckers, and tell that over here in the UK as well, where those that speak up and speak out are being demonetized, deplatformed, and the like. So that was that video. That you'll find that on Rumble. All right. And the next one, just want to just fly through some of these because it's important that you guys have also seen what we do as a team when we're taking them down from this platform. It's our hope that you think, oh well, you know, it's carry on as per normal. It's like, no, the team and I, we don't cease and stop. We get up, we crack on, you know, we dust ourselves off to say, right, we're going to go to this platform. We're going to upload to Rumble every single day, or we're going to upload to Truth Social or to, you know, Twitter, and have all of that. And that's what we've been doing. And, you know, the team can testify that the Lord's been really moving with us as a team in terms of like things that have happened with dreams that I've had. And then all of a sudden, you know, that person's quite famous. And then all of a sudden they're following us. And we're like, whoa, how is this all happening? All right. And so that's just maybe something just for us and as a team in terms of our encouragement, in terms of how we respond to these strikes, this censorship, shadow banning, blacklisting, AI algorithms set against us, plus the human intervention where they're tapping you just away. So it's important that we carry on as we've left off, but we haven't really sort of like ceased. So another video that you might find interesting, guys, that we looked at was that tech giants are competing for the brain chip title. Okay, we all know about Elon Musk, but what we don't really hear much very about is Synchron. And Synchron is the Jeff Bezos and the Bill Gates sort of like, you know, joint venture. This is where you don't get a particular chip in your brain that connects everything up to your emotions, where you can do things on a brain-computer interface. It's through a vaccine. So you might want to look at that and make a few connections, if you will, relating to that technology. Then also you've got Sam Altman. Okay, he is also plugging up and trying to create for himself also competitions in line with Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk. And hot on the heels of that is Peter Thiel as well. Yes, this guy, he wants to have the immortality components there. Just a few weeks ago, they were able to reverse aging in mice. So all of this sort of like technology, all of these global billionaires, this was what they were allowed to do. Here you go. Here, have some technology. Go and make yourself a fortune. And then, you know, by the time it comes all around and we've groomed everybody, predicted, programmed everyone, done the whole slow reveal, then we're going to come back to you and take all of your money, because by that time the science will be there for all of these sort of like technologies that are literally going to, you know, enslave humanity. So if that's something that interests you in terms of like a video, that's over there as well. Also looking at leaked CDC files confirm COVID shots causing cancer and organ failure in young people. Important that you go over and see some of these things as well. We're going to look at some other article headlines in a moment before we get into our main one. But another one which is really important for us to be looking into was Beware the Digital Cage. Now, it was initially titled the Unholy Trinity. I thought that was a bit, I'm not going to use that one, but I wanted to reword it somewhat, because this is when it looked at the digital IDs, the CBDCs, and then the facial recognition technology, and that all intertwining and coming together, literally all what we're discussing being used against you. And then the other day we looked at a Mossad insider warns that an imminent false flag in America will grant Israel full access and control of the United States. Now, part of what we've been saying recently, at least in our videos, is that this is my suspicion. This is why I think there's more time. They need to get the digital ID rolled out. They need to get that implemented. They're going to be coming after people with benefits and use government services, which is basically everybody. If you pay your council tax, all right, if you're a family member and you have, like, you know, family tax credits or allowances or monies, if you're on benefits, you know, sort of like job seekers, you know, unemployment benefit or sick benefit, then you're going to have that as well. If you've got children and you're divorced or whatever, and you're paying child maintenance, you're going to need all of this. So these are the things that are going to be really set up, real ramped up right now. And it's going to be fast, because this is happening very fast. Then they've got the vaccination sort of like status, and so many countries have signed up to the World Health Organization pandemic treaty as well. You see some other videos relating to the tyrannies that will follow with that being applied. Okay, and then all of a sudden it's going to be a case of, I suspect, a black swan false flag event. It will crash everything either through a cyber attack or something of that nature, where literally there'll be blackouts and everything else, and then that will reset the whole thing according to what Klaus Schwab and everyone else has been alluding to. Yeah, and then it'll be the implementation of the central bank digital currency, and that being programmable. And then when we're there and people are getting used to all of that, then they'll have the other slow reveal, which is by bringing in the chips and saying, hey, you can have this underneath your skin, and hey, you can have this here. And then when we're there, then I suspect that we're going to be pulled, because the church is not appointed to us. So there were just a few of the things that we've been looking at over the period of our week suspension. Okay, I'd encourage you to go over to our Rumble channel, and also able to put some more things out onto Truth Social as well. Okay, and that's been really good. I've just made a few comments every other day. One person comes, everything's a slow drip feed with us, all right, because we are so ridiculously shadow banned. All right, for every one person we get, it must be like 1,000 or so that, you know, I mean, we really end up getting, and then they give us the one, because it's just literally like that. But it's not about the views or the subs or the growth or the empire building. It's just about being obedient, as per what we read in Ezekiel 2. Speak whether they listen or they don't listen. And that's our kind of a thing. So if you're over at Twitter as well, you can find out. Our show has been great, sticking up our Rumble, sticking up our X, as well as the Truth Social. All right, giving you guys different options if you're on those platforms to share and to send. All right, so let me just say hi, a quick hello to all of you guys. Hi Sherry, hi all of you that are in here, and hi Popple Backyard Farm, bless you, and hi Karen, good to see you guys. So that's a little bit relating to some of that. I want to take us, before we go into our main article today, which is Mark Carney introduces bills allowing warrantless government monitoring of mail purchases and phones. The reason why I'm doing some headline articles now, guys, is just because I received a strike, and then all of a sudden YouTube's being retarded, and it won't allow me to put those links in with the articles. So in the morning where you wake up to 30 or 40 articles, I can't do that no more, because you can't press into the link. And then it wants me to verify that and then come up with a 6-second, which I thought was hilarious. Really, 6 seconds? Okay, a 6-second video, and then wants me to submit my identification. Not happening. So forgive me, we're going to talk about it here just very briefly before we get into the main article. All right, some interesting headlines. It's important for us to be covering on our sort of like lives as well. So here you go. Deep state messaging leak. Mainstream media instructed to gaslight public by denying Antifa's existence. But we're also seeing over here in the UK, you're seeing Antifa deliberately being allowed out. They go kicking off, starting, ruckuses and riots and fights and everything else. All of a sudden, you get a few, coppers over here who get a bit slapped about or whatever. They're, oh, no. There you go. There's more rules, relating to your inability to be able to protest. It's just like, come on. Most of them are probably undercover coppers. Do you know what I mean? This is like unbelievable. I'm not even going to bother reading the next one on that. But this is really interesting one. I thought connects a little bit to what we have been saying. Industry leading Proton and Nord VPNs admit. Talk about slow reveal there now. All VPNs are monitoring users. This is one of the things about the People's Voice that I ain't down with. First of all, they're incredibly critical of Israel. Secondly, they'll want to sell you alternatives like the ivermectin, which is just as deadly and dangerous, by the way. And then on top of that, they want to then start selling you, technology relating to VPNs as well for you to get out. And this is the perfect way of controlled opposition. All right, literally sort of like gathering up the rest of the herd, the rest of them in that sort of a way. Well, they don't go there. They'll come over to here for this information. All right, well, now we're here. We're going to have to get them this way. And this is literally what they do. So I am buying into any of these VPNs that are meant to be there. It was, let's just say it. God bless the man, Edward Snowden. Bless that man, all right, for literally having the courage to turn around and blow the lid off when it came to government surveillance on our phones. All right, and that man's still unable to come back to his own country, still having to live, all right, in Russia because he can't come back. A very brave man. Now, understandably, he was entrusted in a high position of authority. Probably shouldn't have sort of like stolen some of that information. But I got to respect that. So very interesting that all VPNs are monitoring users. This technology is not safe. Over here in the UK, you've got so many people that are going back to the old school type of phones. All right, fair enough. You're going to play this. I ain't going to be having your, smartphone no more. Because, good luck trying to put a digital ID app on that bad boy. That's where a lot of people are actually going. Also, in other news, Finnish MPs to start training exercise in underground bunkers. There's sort of like rumouring every now and then. They sort of like, when things start to settle, they'll just, catastrophize everything. Yeah, awfulize everything. Oh no, there's an alien invasion, 3i Atlas. Look out. Whoa. And if it's not that, it's kind of Putin's going to nuke you in 2 seconds flat. It's just like literally oscillating between these sort of like storylines. And if they get really sort of like, desperate, they'll throw in some sort of like pandemic preparedness exercise just to keep everybody at this heightened sense of like alarmism, and fearful, so they're able to be shaped and molded in accordance to the demonic will of the elites. What were we saying about a week or so ago? Here you go. Hamas thank Trump for peace deal. Really? We'll get into that in a moment. But say no to Tony Blair. He's not welcome in post-war Gaza. All right. I got nothing but love. All right, for my American cousins. But as far as your president, as far as our prime minister goes, they're both Muppets. I'm going to say it right now. They are. It is not okay to be leaving all of the hostages, to rot for like 2 years. And only when it suits them do they want to come on and intervene and use them as political pawns. At what point were we ever sort of like negotiating with terrorists and saying, this is all fine? And when they make these negotiations, we'll give you one of your hostages back, but you have to give us 100 of ours in return. It's an absolute monstrosity. I don't believe this man should be held up for a peace plan at all. Not at all. Not Mr. God complex. Stirring it all up, and then has the stupidity to turn around and say, we're not going to go anywhere near the World Health Organization. We're going to be defunding you guys, coming up with his own sort of like Stargate with all of his sort of like, billions for mRNA vaccines. And how much did he give to Albert Bourla and Pfizer most recently? Turning around and saying, he's a great guy. Kidding me? The backtracking. It's not only just a slow reveal, but it's the backtracking on your policy, of your agenda, of the things that you put, in your manifestos to get people into elected positions of authority. And then you withdraw from that. It's basically called lying. So no, I'm not really down with that. And I can understand completely how the Middle East wouldn't want nothing to do with war criminal Tony Blair. Where are those weapons of mass destruction? You know, and what's interesting at the moment in other news as well, with the previous administration, when it came to Obama, now you've got things kicking off when it comes to, you know, Pakistan and Afghanistan going at it. Oh, there was a lot of military equipment that just so happened to conveniently be left there. That is one thing that you set ablaze on your way out. You don't leave that for your enemy. You don't leave that for them to empower and embolden them. It was a way to destabilize the whole Middle East. Awful. And connections with Tony Blair met Jeffrey Epstein during his time as prime minister. Name me a politician who hasn't. That's why they're so easily manipulated, so easily coerced, you know, and blackmailed and bribed. Because it's like, oh yeah, well, you went over to that island, or you went to P. Diddy's, you know, little house party, and that was it, wasn't it? That was they just walked into those ambushes, knowing that they were going to be filmed, and then using that against them a little bit later. Same thing that's happening over in Africa and India and all these other sort of like developing, you know, countries where you get the Bill Gates that goes over, you know, to all these corrupt individuals that have taken their sort of like positions by force, similar to the Syrian president as well, who's decapitating Christians. And that was also another video that we did as well, the sort of like, you know, the quiet genocide that's going on over in Nigeria. And Christians being, you know, murdered and hacked to pieces as well. No one wants to talk about those. It's all about Palestine. It's insane. And here, we reported on it yesterday. UK government want digital IDs for children as young as 13 years old. Evil. And then here, Peter Thiel says Bill Gates is a very, very awful person, but not the Antichrist. You know, what's really hilarious is that this guy, Bill Gates, can literally just travel around the world, do what he likes, go where he likes. Apparently, there's, you know, arrest warrants for him in Germany and in the Netherlands and in Japan, countries that if he ever goes anywhere near there again, he's going to be arrested on the spot. And you're telling me with all the tracking and all the surveillance and all this technology that's used against us that they can't ground that man's plane somewhere and arrest him? Seriously? That's what's so monstrous about these individuals. They've got no one against them. Doesn't matter, does it? What we say and what we don't want in your products, they just force it on us anyway. And it's pretty rich coming from Peter Thiel, is it not? Another man that we can't make videos about because he's so protected. That man's such a brown noser when it comes to the Antichrist. He has to do like a 4-part series, you know what I mean, doing sort of like a profile raising campaign in advance for it. Awful. Here you go in other news. Global Tribunal designates mRNA jabs weapons of mass destruction under international law. On the 8th of October, the Alliance of Indigenous Nations International Tribunal dropped a bombshell declaring exposing COVID injections as biological and technological weapons of mass destructions under international law. And so when really we're talking about who really has blood on their hands, it wouldn't be me with a little meme that I put up and out. It's these social media platforms. It's like the YouTubes as well. They want to censor, silence, and ban you and remove your content. Really, that's the only thing that winds me up when they give us a slap, when they give us a strike. It's the only thing that does that. Because this is where we are heading, church. We're going to be getting to the point just like the apostles did, where they were beaten, they were struck, they were excluded, they were marginalized, they were alienated. Okay, they were locked up and behind bars, and then they were murdered. This is where we are heading, church. At some point, the Lord's going to rescue us. But for those that are left behind when it comes to the tribulation saints, that's their sort of future. And can we not see some of this also happening in advance here right now? Unbelievable. And then we're going to look at this Mark Carney. Okay, that was just some. I'm going to carry on with some of these guys and then check in, see what you guys have got to say about some of these things. Really important that we're covering these news articles to give people a heads up as to what's happening. In the Philippines, there was a 6.0 earthquake which hits Mindanao. Severe flooding also leaves 28 dead across central and southeastern Mexico. Here, nor'easter threat prompts emergency declaration in New Jersey with some of the strong winds, flooding, etc. It's really hard to know whether or not this is just sort of like monsoon season or whatever, or is it, literally the weather being weaponized with geoengineering, and then Augustus, with the, the rainmaker and Peter Field funding that, and, Maui and LA. If it's not flooding and, drowning them out, it's burning them out, isn't it? Here you go. Another one. Facial recognition will be used to unlock your digital identity. What has this got to do with climate change? I might cover that video a little bit later. But here we go as well. In other news, interstellar object is spraying something weird. Won't be for the first time, will it really? Scientists find a new analysis of our solar system's interstellar interloper 3IA Atlas reveal that it's spewing huge amounts of water, and astronomers can't immediately explain why. So interesting. You might want to see what we did in and around that with the alien sort of like invasion thing. What was the title? I'll just find the title for that. Here you go. Yes, top scientists claim alien DNA was inserted into human genes. Yes, there's a lot of that going on with DNA contamination, isn't there? Moving on. Here you go. US deploys 200 troops to oversee Gaza ceasefire deal. That was what it was all about, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Under the pretense of some white flag being waved, it was like, nah, that boy wants to get him there. He's going to build himself some nice Trump towers. Cha-ching. Do you know what I mean? And I bet you got sort of like Tony Blair sobbing somewhere, being, consoled by his son with the brick card that things haven't sort of like planned out, but they'll still use Blair's organization for this sort of like peace plan, which is what, 5 years or something monstrous like that. Interesting here. In order for peace to be taken away, a state of peace must first exist. Interesting article coming out relating to the Middle East and Gaza. Also here, US relations with China just went down the tubes. And so brace yourself for much higher prices and shortages of certain items. This is what it's all about, isn't it, as well? It's what the to-ing and froing that you receive from sort of like Elon Musk. Oh, no, Elon Musk is such a danger to Britain. It's because they want to remove Twitter. They don't want that as a feed. Do you know what I mean? They don't want us having some outlet to turn to. And here you go here. Christianity under attack in the Netherlands. No one wants to talk about this. Couple smashes the statue of Jesus inside the church. And then what was it I was reading the other day? That Trump wants to put some big sort of like, Jesus Christ statue on the White House lawn or something like that. It's just like we're seeing so many people turning against Christians. We are the most persecuted, the most marginalized. And it's just like these sort of like immigrants that come over here to the UK. They're wanting to migrate to their, Arab nations like Kuwait or, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria. They don't. They want to come over and assimilate the whole culture. Do you know what I mean? With their sort of like evil Muslim religion. Here, 20 years after the Muhammad cartoons, Europe chose surrender over freedom. Europe stands as proof that while its artists were silenced, exiled and buried in secret, Islam advances. And the West's cowardice have only deepened, leaving freedom of expression dead in the land that was once dared to defend it. Some really interesting things that are coming out there. And also just want to take you over to a few headlines from UK Reloaded, guys, if I may, before we get into our main article. Here you go. 2029 will be a generational opportunity to reverse devolution. Also, there was a lot of things kicking off over here relating to Keir Starmer and this China spy deal, where he was also sort of like found out he was not being transparent with his finances, and the actual highest court of the land here will turn around and says your job is untenable. You must resign as British Prime Minister. Will he heck? Bit interesting. We're seeing the squeeze on Adolf Starmer as well. Looking at some of the digital tyrannies that are at our doors, guys. This is what we're going to be looking at relating to some of the tyrannies, especially over in Canada, where Mark Carney introduces bills allowing warrantless government monitoring of mail, purchases and phones. Same thing we've had over here with the online safety bill. All right. with Palantir being given all of these contracts, 24 now in total, and the police getting new powers. Nobody wants to have a discussion about what are those powers around. Well, they'll be able to access your device. They'll be able to scan and cloak your device and be able to turn on and go through your emails, go through your search history, go through, you know, your phone calls, find out who's in your contact lists. This is what's literally happening. All right. And there's governments that are being busted for this, but they're having to make some of these, you know, things legally, you know, permissible, as opposed to doing it on the sly, which is what they've been doing. So we're going to cover some of that in a moment. Bless you guys. Thank you for being here. All right, let's just crack on. Under Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada is hurtling towards a surveillance state at breakneck speed. The Liberal government's latest legislative blitz, Bills C2, C8 and C9, and a revived Online Harms Act threatens to dismantle the very foundations of freedom in the country. Going to take us just to a few of these things relating to, let's just have a little bit of a hearsay with what's going on with Canada. Some headlines. Literally just a month ago, Trudeau imported 36.5% of Canada's population. All right, under WEF Great Replacement Agenda. That's a great way to lose its national identity, all gearing up for Canada being the 51st state, going to the Club of Rome's sort of like first kingdom. All right, nicking it from the prophet Daniel. There we go, that with Greenland in the bag. So you just wait until more things kick off in Canada. We've been saying it, and now look at what they're doing. All right, in other related news with Canada still, Canada's eco false flag exposed. Here you go. Glyphosate sprayed on forests sets to ignite engineered mega fires. This is what they did in Maui. It's what they've done everywhere else, isn't it? When it comes to LA, and then they want to build their smart cities, or they want to have these little places as little hideaways for the elite so they can build their bunkers. And this is what we're seeing, them deliberately, purposely spraying all of this over there, and then just like literally, you know, by arson, setting it ablaze, and then coming in with this, you know, humanitarian relief, and under the pretense that we're there to help you and fix you and sort things out for you. But really what they're going to be doing is literally sort of like taking over the entirety of that country. Trump has his eyes on that. This is what's happening over here in the UK, with the UK literally rejoining Brexit to become the second kingdom to the Club of Rome's agenda. And we're seeing this now, aren't we, guys? We're talking about sabotage, and we're also talking about evil. Canada begins euthanizing child rape victims while pedophiles walk free. Don't believe me? Canada to begin euthanizing citizens. It's the most euthanized country in the world, Canada. Canada to begin euthanizing citizens deemed mentally ill, including conspiracy theorists. All right. So when they're offering medical assistance in dying, or MAID for short, and then over here in the UK, you've got Kim Ledbetter's euthanasia bill. This is what these guys want to deal in death. They want to target, just like the Nazis did, with the elderly and the frail, and those that were less desirables, those that were politically dissenters, those of ethnic communities. And then it was a case of, right, fine, we've got all of those out of the way. Now we're going to focus our attention on the Jews. And this is what's so monstrous about this beast system. It's just not just particularly pertaining to one people group, one nation, one race or nation. This is about everybody, the indiscriminate targeting and killing of everybody. They don't care. So when we've said in the past, with those that are on the other end of this, running human interference, they're spraying over your houses too. They're spraying over your loved ones, your friends, your family. They're weaponizing the food and the water against you as well. It ain't just a job. The indiscriminate nature. Targeting the ill, sterilizing those, and also conspiracy theorists, those that have a mind, those that do their own research. Here, Canada promotes euthanasia for kids with mental health issues without parental consent. This is why you get all of these governments literally getting into schools, wanting this overreach, because if they can get them there where they're vulnerable and they're at an age of such influence, you can manipulate them and coerce them, screw them up indefinitely for their lives with their gender and their identity and their sexuality. And then if you can sort of like really, make them feel guilty for even existing with the climate lie on top of all of this, then you'll get them to a point where they don't want to, play anymore. They don't want to be a part of it anymore. Destroying the family unit and just ripping that to pieces, and then offering them this. This is what you offer children. Do not see the difference between our Lord Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life, and whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Wants to heal us. Jesus wants to, restore us. Wants to walk and journey with us in relationship. Empowers us. Doesn't treat us like slaves. We know his business. He allows us to see all these things. And he provides and he cares. As opposed to the beast system that wants to kill, lie, and deceive, and rob, and do everything monstrous, everything perverted that it does. This is not healthcare in any degree. And here you go. Pilot testifies Bill Gates spraying chemicals in Canada causing psychosis and suicide. I wonder if there's a connect. You think, oh, this is all a bit far-fetched, bruv. Are you kidding me? Have you ever taken any drugs? I have taken a lot of drugs in my life. Not proud of any of it. But I've had uppers and I've had downers and chemicals and stuff. You're telling me that they can't put that into massive factories and create all of this and spray it overhead? Y'all don't know. Affecting your mood with the 5Gs and everything else is being manipulated against you in that particular way. I find it really suspicious about some of that. And most of this is really being done in the nighttime. All right, with the spraying now over here in the UK, because people are waking up. They're waking up to what's going on when they're seeing the crisscrossing in the skies. And it's there to sterilize, isn't it? It's there to send all these, smart dusts and everything else. But it's also to behaviorally affect moods as well. Wondering why our children end up, wanting to sort of like feel that there's no hope. Canada Prime Minister vows to provide sterilizing puberty blockers to children. Mark Carney is an evil individual. And if you saw him when he got elected, him flipping off Satan horns, it was disgusting. It was disgusting. And all of them are all doing that now. They're all flipping off their hands in allegiance. You know who it is that they serve, as they're bowing down to their overlords for their position of authority. How short-lived that will be. And here, trucker protest leader sentenced to 3 months house arrest for protesting COVID restrictions in Canada. Only takes one more pandemic, guys, and we are done for. Here, Trump proposes Canada becomes the 51st US state following Trudeau's resignation. This is what he wants. He wants, under the pretense of wanting Greenland to be a bit protected because China and Russia are around there a little bit. Now we'll take out stuff with Greenland. So you wait, guys. I'm calling it out now. Things are going to kick off in Canada, big styly. Things are going to kick off even bigger when it comes to Greenland. And you're going to see the US, position over there a lot more. Where do you think NORAD is now got their HQ? Greenland. And here, Privacy Commissioner confirms Liberal Bill C2 gives the government sweeping new powers. This is what we'll be covering in a moment, to access Canadians' personal information from service providers like banks and telecoms without a warrant. So just like over here in the UK with this online policing bill, they'll be able to literally get a complaint from one of you, be like, oh, no, Dan did this post, or Dan said this. And then all of a sudden that'll go to wherever, be pinged over to my council. Council will wrap me in, throw me in jail, and I'm done. That's literally where we're heading. Without a warrant, they will also be able to just walk into my door, take whatever they like. They don't like something, they can take it. They try to hide this power grab, burying it in a so-called border bill, as they do with most things. All right? These bills that will end up destroying Canada. The Bill C2 empowers government employees, not police, right? Government employees, that could be anybody, by the way, to open your email, search your phone or your computer, all without a warrant. The Bill C8 gives cabinet ministers the power to kick Canadians off the internet, impose fines and demand data, no judge and no police review. And turn around about infiltration and these young global leaders, these young global shapers. The Bill C9 removes legal safeguards around free speech. Justice Centre expands hate prosecutions. And we're talking about, you know, Canada's digital ID push as well. Well, here you go. Canada moves to criminalize cash transfers over 10,000. Canada once stood up to the oppressive COVID tyranny like few others around the globe. Canada's government now oppresses Christians, forces DEI Marxism on the people, freezes bank accounts, and is about to restrict free speech. Unbelievable. If you are resisting tyranny, you are the reason we are in this mess. Because you do not defend your rights and your freedoms, they are being taken away and turned into privileges that you must earn from the state. That used to be called slavery. This is what we're saying about before. People are far too quiet about these digital IDs. I've been encouraging people to sign up to the petitions. I don't like doing that, man. I don't. I'll be honest with you. I ain't got time for it now. I don't want them having my email for a start. Definitely don't want them having my address when I'm writing to MPs about, don't you go thinking that I'm in agreement or accord with you wanting them to, you know, recognize, you know, a Palestinian state, because it ain't. 9 out of 10 Britons don't want the Palestinian state. 99.9% of people over in this country don't want a digital ID. And the only way that we get to really speak up about that is, yes, we can protest, but we're now being told that we can't over here in the UK. There's going to be all these laws because they're deliberately allowing people in this particular sort of like, you know, Antifas, and they're kicking off. You know, it's just like, come on, we knew this would happen. And then they restrict people. And this is why we're losing our freedoms. And it says here, you are the reason we are in this mess, because you do not defend your own freedom. They are being taken away and turned into privileges that you must earn from the state. Well, we're not going to do it here on our channel. We're going to speak up and we're going to expose evil in whatever way, shape and form that we can. And if this platform comes down, we'll put it on that one and that one and that one and that one. And we will keep on going like we have for 8 years. And it's so important that that's it. But we also don't come to a particular place of laziness or apathy. That this information that gets put out doesn't just remain in your knowledge base. That you actually share this information out, that you please share our videos, you please share our work. I'm not trying to build anything up here, guys, or make a name for myself at all. I don't want that at all. You guys know me. I hate being in front of the camera. But there's vital bits of information that are put into some of the videos that we make, vital bits of information when it comes to articles that we put up and out, that are there for you before these walls start closing in, before you haven't got any sort of like freedom at all whatsoever. You've got to do what you can to push against that. What would happen if during the COVID churches were like, nah, man, we ain't shutting our doors. We're going to have our services. We're going to invite people in. We're going to give them some food, and we're going to care for them. We're going to provide for them. We're going to show them the love of God. We don't care about y'all. And you can stick your money that you manipulate us with, because that's the reason why you gave us this money, so that you could coerce us, so that we want to bite the hand that fed us. But no, what would happen if we'd done that as a church across a whole globe? What have happened here on YouTube? We got loads of sort of Christians speaking out against the tyrannies of COVID jabs and the dangers of that, speaking out against all of the evil that we end up reporting. What would have happened as a whole collectivity of saying, no, this is not how we want to do things. No, we don't agree with this, because we believe in what Ephesians 5:11 says. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, rather expose them, not turn a blind eye, not walk away. And now we're getting to a point where so many are literally doing so much of that. And as a church, as a channel, we can't afford to do this. We've got to speak up about some of this stuff. So I'm really blessed that you know, outside of the things that you guys don't see, okay, with my interactions with the team, I'm sending them different stuff. I'll do this and do this, and then we'll go over to another platform, and that'll get thousands and thousands and thousands of views. Trying desperately to get people awake, waking them up to the reality that they find themselves in. Okay, this is what's really happening. This is how close we are to the end times. Jesus is coming back really, really soon. Okay, I haven't got an ETA for you. I'm praying for one every single day. All right, it'd be great to have something to work toward. But until then, he's on his way. All right, and he said that when these things would start to happen, look up, because your redemption looks, you know, is nigh. And now we're seeing everything take shape with the tyrannies, with the beast system, with what the Antichrist and the false prophet will have and use against all those that are left behind. And we have the joy and the pleasure of being able to report on the very things that the prophet Daniel and the apostle John were told to seal up. So really interesting. And as we look at, you know, Canada today, as Canada's descent into tyranny is almost complete, so is the UK's. So is the UK's. So it's really important that we go to that particular article now. If these bills pass, which is the Bill C2, Bill C8 and the Bill C9, if these bills pass, Canadians will find themselves jailed for social media posts, having their phones searched without warrants, their mail opened by bureaucrats, and even be placed under house arrest for pre-crimes they haven't committed. This is not speculation. It's the future being written into law, one bill at a time. We've been saying what the online safety bill did ain't got nothing to do with the safety of children. It's about censoring dissent and opposition. And then they've got the online policing bill. And look at how much, how much power is being given to you know, the police, to these agencies, and how much is being taken from us. Again, Revelation 17:13. They are of one mind and one purpose, and will give their power to the beast. And where do you think they're going to get it from? Canada Liberal government has 3 bills that, when passed, will be the most destructive bills ever put into law. Free speech will be ended. Canadians will be thrown in prison for social media posts, warrantless searches of phones, pre-crime punishments, and even open your mail. So the Bill C2, let's have a little look-see at that. This is the Strong Borders Act, which is a load of hogwash that invades your life. Behind its patriotic name, always behind is something, I mean, it's a dangling carrot. Bill C2, the Strong Borders Act, is a Trojan horse for mass surveillance. It grants ordinary government employees, not police, the power to open your mail, search your phone or your laptop, and seize digital data without a warrant. You might want to be thinking about what you're going to be looking at now. You know? And even when you think you can get away with it and you go deleting some of this stuff, forget about it. Because I know people literally about more than 2 decades ago that if you deleted something, all right, I remember once I was working, I deleted so much. I was like, no, gutted. My mate came up, right, and it was gone. My mate, I called my mate over, and he came over and he found it all just like that. I was like, where did you get it from? So when it gets deleted, it goes to a particular place. You just need to know where to go and find it. And he brought it all back. Unbelievable how he did it. And that was decades ago. It grants ordinary government employees, not the police, the power to open your mail, search your phone or laptop, and seize digital data without a warrant. C2 is the Strong Borders Act. It should be really called the Strong Surveillance Act, says Josh Carpe of the Justice Centre. It empowers Canada Post to open letter mail without a warrant. That's troubling. It criminalizes the use of cash in amounts greater than 10,000. And it empowers a vast army of government officials, not just police, to conduct warrantless searches of the computer and cell phones of Canadians. It is a massive invasion of privacy. It is extremely dangerous. By banning high-value cash transactions, the Carney government also pushes the nation closer to a cashless, trackable, and traceable economy where every purchase and transfer leaves a digital footprint in the hands of the state. Getting so close to that, he calls us all, both great and small, free and slave, rich and poor, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no man may buy or sell save he who have the mark of the beast. Look at where we are with all of the things just in this 1 hour that we've been able to expose and put together to tell you where all of this is heading. Let's bounce over to the Bill C8, which is the bureaucrats become the new censors. Bill C8 expands Ottawa's control from your wallets to your words. It gives cabinet ministers the power to kick Canadians off the internet, impose fines, and demand private data. No judge, no police, no oversight. Just be able to kick you off the internet. And look at what YouTube's already trying to do with me. Oh, okay, Mr. Trendell, you want to be putting up a post because you got a strike. You're going to have to give me your digital ID. You're going to have to make a 6-second video. Telling me that you can't get a 6-second clip out of all of our lives? Give over. Imposing fines? Really? That's also what's going to be coming along, isn't it? And then demand private data. No judge, no police, no oversight. You're going to see a digital safety commission with a vast army of bureaucrats to enforce federal regulations, warned Carney. This so-called commission will become a government speech police force empowered to silence dissenting voices under the pretext of safety. This is what we've got over here in the UK. You don't know if you're going to have your door smashed in as a content creator for the things that you say, your posts, your memes. You don't know that they're going to be having so many corrupt officials that they'll go and throw you in front of. But what does Jesus turn around and says? That when, not if, but when you are before these particular people, do not worry about what it is that you will say. The Holy Spirit will tell you what it is that you should say. This is what we are going to be having now. Christians, especially those that speak out against evil, this is what we've all got coming our way. So whether you really do it or not doesn't matter. If you do it in private as well, and maybe not publicly, it ain't going to matter none. The result of this, which will literally be a digital iron curtain, where inconvenient opinions disappear, and those who question authority lose access to the modern public square. Look what they've just done with us, just for one strike, for one little picture. Are you kidding me? They had the kill switch on our last live, which is why I left YouTube before, all right, for a music violation. There wasn't a music violation because I quoted it and it was copyrighted. And it's the only sort of like appeal I've ever won out of all of the 8 years that we've had sort of like 7 channels being taken down. All right. And look what they do with this reward and punishment, the social credit score system. If you comply, you can expect loads of fruit, loads of views, loads of subs. We'll give you a nice little plaque and a nice little reward to hang in the background just to show how compliant that you've been to the beast system and how you bent over and did its will and bidding. But you speak out against it, no, we're going to demonetize you. We're going to squash everything. And that's what's so monstrous about it. That's what breaks our heart as a team. It's not so much that they do that, but it's like the people that really need to know this information, they need to be given a choice. This is why in the Holy Word of God that we read in Revelation 14, 9 through 11, all right? that there's going to be an angel of the Lord that has to fly over the whole earth, telling them about the mark of the beast, because you can't have that proper conversation without being controlled opposition, without being censored, misinformation, disinformation, the whole lot. There's going to take a holy angel to speak out so everybody can know what's really going on. This is where we're heading, guys, to that. Let's go to the Bill C9, which is criminalizing dissent. With Bill C9, the Liberal government moves to erase the final barrier protecting free thoughts. When you know what's going on in under your skin, don't open that door. What we've been saying, that they'll be able to say what it is that you're thinking, how you're feeling, what shapes you, what molds you. And all of a sudden, with this transhumanist, body computer interface thing going on with the nanotechnologies and the smart dust that we're all breathing in, all right, they'll be able to know everything about us. It expands the Justice Centre's powers to prosecute hate speech. Well, that's a really interesting definition. Who gets to decide that? But leaves hate undefined. The vagueness is the weapon. Under C9's controversial or politically incorrect opinions could be treated as crimes. Free speech, once a cornerstone of Canadian democracy, becomes conditional on government approval. Then you start to think about, all right, how come that now I'm seeing why old King Charles boy bounced over to Canada so many times most recently to have those sort of conversations. Because obviously he's got a Commonwealth interest going on over there. Yeah, it's fine. Sorry, we're going to have to surrender this country to Trump and become the 51st state. We've got to get the Club of Rome's 10 kingdoms in place. The Online Harms Act, pre-crimes come to Canada. The most chilling proposal of all is the resurrection of the Online Harms Act, which introduces pre-crime punishment. Canadians could be placed under house arrest, curfew, or fitted with ankle bracelets, not for crimes committed, but for those they might commit in the future. If the Online Harms Act is brought back and passed into law, you're going to see the Canadian Human Rights Commission with massive new powers to prosecute Canadians over offensive non-criminal speech with penalties up to $50,000. You're going to see Canadians punished preemptively because their neighbor fears they might commit a hate speech crime in the future. Giving federal cabinet ministers power to kick Canadians off the internet is not necessary for protecting public safety or defending our national security. Canada will be a police state by Christmas if Parliament passes the bills C2, C8 and C9 in their current form, one critic said bluntly. Taken together, these bills form the legal architecture of a digital dictatorship, one where bureaucrats control your communication, police your opinions, and track your every move. Under Carney's Liberal government, the nation once celebrated for tolerance and open dialogue now stands on the brink of total information control. The tools for censorship, surveillance, and pre-crime detention are being locked into law. Unless Canadians push back now, the country's proud tradition of liberty may be reduced to a memory, and the great white north may soon resemble the very regimes it once condemned. Fascinating article there, guys, for you. If you're Canadian, you really do need to get your laughing gear around bills C2, C8 and C9. I'm going to put this article in the description box for you. Not that you'll be able to read it. If you do, it was from the People's Voice TV. I'll put the link in. You may have to do this manually because this is what we're seeing now, guys. I'm not able to do that because of a simple picture. You're kidding me? Of all the violence, all the filth, all of the other sort of like evil that's on this platform, that a simple picture was a bit too much. All right, bearing in mind what we have said as well didn't get us anything. But anyway, moving on. Just want to see what you guys have got to say in and about this. Bless you. Hi there, Laura. Right on, Sen. Good to see you. Hi, Alison. Good to see you as well. Morning, daughter Vishka. Great to see you. Have you guys with us? Does anyone know if they release the hostages? I don't know. It's just an absolute farce, isn't it, really? It's absolutely, I can't believe that it's taken them that long. So I'm sorry. There's just no way that should have sort of like been taken like 2 years. Are you kidding me? Telling me with all of the surveillance that they've got going on right now, tracking them, tracing us, knowing our every move, yeah, knowing what we eat, being able to turn on our microphones, turning on our sort of like cameras. And you're telling me that they couldn't do that to Hamas? They couldn't do that to the, find out where the hostages were. Didn't suit them, did it? They were just used as political pawns. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, now you're going to be all like that. It's like, no, absolutely not. You do not end up negotiating with terrorism. You don't go sort of like mediocre, having that conversation. You can't be reasonable with the unreasonable. All right, but this is the world that we live in now, isn't it? You just sort of like, turn a blind eye to sort of like rape, murder and genocide and invading another country. All right. And if you hold out long enough, we'll reward you with your own Palestinian state. You're kidding me. I got no respect for any of it. And there's no, really. All right. Let's just come out and call it out right now before we go. All right. Do you know who should be really getting the peace prize? You and I. You and I are the ones that should be getting that Nobel Peace Prize for being the pacifists that we are, for being the sheep and the lambs that we are there to be slaughtered. We're the ones that deserve that, with the persecutions and the prosecutions that we have set against us because we love the Lord Jesus Christ. We're the ones that should get that, for turning our cheek, for not retaliating, for not taking up arms, for not kicking off. I'll leave that one with you. God bless you guys. Great to see you. I will be putting this sort of like article in. Like I said, I'll put a thumbnail on, if you will. If you don't mind, guys, going over to our Rumble account, seeing some of the videos that we've made there, and also on our Truth Social, some pictures, some memes, and also on X as well, Twitter. We're there as well. Just so you're able to see other stuff from that. Guys, where are we now? I think we're 12:30. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, maybe put together another video, throw it up on Rumble, and then maybe in a few hours or whatever, guys, we will be back looking at another particular article for us to be having. So God bless you guys. Thank you to our mods for being here and holding the fort, and great to be back. Thank you also for your kindness. There were some real troopers amongst you that emailed me, which you can find usually in the description. My email address is mrdtrendell@gmail.com. That came after, asked how I was doing. That was really thoughtful, really considerate of you. Many of you guys have been praying for us as well. And it is by the grace of God that we're even up as a channel. So thank you for your prayers and your continued support. And thank you again to our mods for doing a stellar job as well. So we will see you in a few. God bless.